Hello and welcome to the B-Roll Film Club.
A movie review podcast without the pretentious critics.
We are your hosts, Scott, Emma, and Jessica.
This episode, we are discussing 10 Cloverfield Lane and A Quiet Place. We hope you've watched both these films and that you're ready to dive into our reviews.
Before we get started, I'd just like to remind you that we announce our chosen films in advance on Twitter, where you can follow us at B-Roll Film Club.
And you can use our email, thebrollfilmclub@gmail.com, to send in your own thoughts and reviews, which we may discuss on our episodes.
Lastly, before we get started, please be warned that we will be discussing the plots of these films in full, so this is your spoiler alert. Please make sure that you've watched these films, and if not, pause the podcast and come back when you have.
Great, so first up we've got 10 Cloverfield Lane, written by Josh Campbell and directed by Dan Trachtenberg. Do you want to give us your first thoughts, Emma?
Yeah. So I had only ever heard of this film in passing. I'd never watched it. I thought it'd be too spooky for me, so I kind of avoided it. But it wasn't too bad. It was certainly creepy in parts, especially Howard. Like I was until like about 3/4 of the way through the film, I genuinely didn't know how to take him.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was being serious or if he was lying and it was all an elaborate ruse to somehow like kidnap this woman. I wasn't sure, and there were some moments where I was like, no, he seems pretty good. But then in the next 5 minutes, it suddenly switched. I was like, no, I really don't think he is. So I could never tell if what he was saying had happened was true. I genuinely couldn't tell. And I liked that, actually, that it kind of, played about with it a wee bit, and that you were never really sure.
Yeah.
Because being a young woman in that situation, I would be like, no, like he's up to something. I don't like it. I want out of here.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I don't blame her for that. But then he seemed genuine enough. But then there was little moments where he would snap, and I was like, oh, okay, he doesn't seem genuine at all. He seems like quite unhinged and creepy. I'm like, I don't think I like this.
Sure.
Especially with Emmett as well. Because he knew Howard before, I was like, I'm not sure if he's like in on this as well, or if he's genuinely there because he's
Right, yeah.
like the invasion's actually come. So that was another part of it where I was still not sure. But overall, it was a good film. It had some cons, like some films, but I did enjoy it, and I would probably watch it again, but not in a rush.
Yeah.
That was probably the best way I could explain it. But if I saw it on and nothing else was on, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's stick it on. But no, it was good. I enjoyed it. John Goodman's performance was really good, and the way he delivered some lines, I was just like, I tied back into the I'm not sure if Howard's being genuine here or if he's lying. So I thought that was very good. And yeah, they dealt with the kind of like the three people compacted into that small space very well, and all the little details of keeping it running, keeping the place running, so that they didn't die, or supposedly didn't die. You were never sure. But no, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely would say the same thing as Emma. I would say it did look creepy from the outskirts, from what I remember when it first came out. I was just like, oh, that's not a film I want to go and see, because I remember seeing the trailer for the other film which it's meant to be associated with, and I was just like, I seen that and I was just like, yep, nope, that's a no from me. I'm not watching this. Don't want to see it. I don't do well with horror films or like scary films. But after watching it, I was like, it's not so much about those like jump scares and that. It's more about a psychological kind of thing, more than anything.
Yeah, plays with you a
but
little bit.
Yeah, I didn't like the guy. I knew there was something creepy about him from the start. It was just like, there's something not quite right here, but I just couldn't put my finger on it until like what you're saying towards the end, and you're just like, that's it. That's the creepiness.
Yeah.
But no, I'd say fantastic acting from all of them, especially in such a confined space, because usually like films and movies tend to have such large locations, to have such a tiny wee box.
Yeah, a tiny little bunker that they're all crammed into.
Yeah, and have them having to act out in it, and it makes it so much more personal, because you're in each other's space and you're having to interact with each other, which I think also builds upon it, which is quite good.
Yeah, so my first impressions of the film were I really liked it. I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, oh, I really want to see that, but I'm a massive wimp, so I wasn't sure about going to see it, but I decided to go see it in the cinema.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed. Like, throughout the film, when I was watching it, I was like, this is so good. I was on the edge of my seat. You couldn't quite tell, like you've already said, like you weren't sure what way Howard was going. You were like, is he genuine or is he not genuine? Like, what's going on here? Is there something that he's hiding? I think John Goodman played that really well. You just weren't really sure with him. Sometimes he was like quite goofy and happy, and other times he's an absolute psychopath, and you were just like, what is going on here?
Yes, yeah.
So I really liked that. The only thing about the film was really the ending that I was quite disappointed by.
Okay.
Up until that point, I was like, this film was amazing. I couldn't wait to see how it ended and what was going to reveal at the end. And then when it happened, I was just like, what is going on here? Like the first bit when she sees the spaceship, I was like, this is brilliant.
Okay.
Because finally we know he was telling the truth, and you had so much reason to doubt him because of the way he was acting. And then they ruin it with that whole chase scene and everything. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it should have cut to black when she saw that spaceship, and that should have been the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we have this big giant slug with legs or whatever it was chasing her around for ages around the little bit of the farm, and then it gets even worse with the spaceship sucking her up.
I know,
with a giant
that was
mouth.
weird. That was a weird
or whatever
choice.
that was. So when all that happened, I was like, how did this get past it? The director, the writers, the editors, the producers, like, why did no one say, do you know what? This isn't the end for this film. Like, let's cut it. And I might have did say to you, like, I searched after we rewatched it for this episode of the podcast. I searched because I did wonder, like, is there an alternative cut or something where someone said, you know, we shouldn't have this in the film? But there's not. But it wasn't the original end of the film. But when it became a Cloverfield film, it was changed. They said it wasn't done to fit in with the Cloverfield movies, but I think it clearly was, and it does feel like they've mashed two films together. So that was annoying. But other than that, like, I thought the performances were all good. John Goodman was really good. The lady that plays Michelle, what's her name again? Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Like, I thought she was really good in a lot of scenes. Apart from the start scene, like, I'm not quite sure why that developed the way that it did. It was a bit strange. Like, I don't understand why we needed to know about the breakup and the fact that she was like sort of leaving or whatever. It was just a bit weird. Like, I just could have done without it. So I don't understand why that was in the film. Like, because it didn't really seem to play anything into the plot. Like, it didn't add anything to it. So I don't understand why we focused on that. It just, I don't know, it feels rushed and not very well done. So yeah, that was a bit odd. But other than that, like, I really did like the film. It's just a shame that they ruined the ending, because that is the last thing you go out remembering. So yeah, that was a major thing that I didn't like about it. Okay, so we'll move on to favourite scene. Emma, do you want to start with yours?
Yeah, I really liked the scene where she's escaping. They've finally got the suit ready, and she just goes for it. And obviously, it's kind of a moment where she's got like nothing left to lose. Like, if it's dead and like sitting in a vat of acid, I'm just like, oh, okay. I think at that point you'd be like, nah, I'm getting out of here. Like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And then Howard's not helping the matter any by sort of running around like a raving lunatic and trying to catch her. That would not make me want to stay.
No. It is totally going around like a psychopath, and it doesn't help his case.
No. But I think after all the cloak and dagger they did getting this suit ready, and for one of them to escape and get help, it is just a good payoff, because it was like high stress, and obviously if Howard was going to find the suit, he was going to go ballistic, and he did. But just that moment where she finally gets into the vent and just goes, I was just like, yes, gun yourself in. I was like, go for it. Because then we can finally see if he's actually telling the truth or if he's lying. I was like, I can finally find out after an hour and 15 minutes. So that was my favourite bit.
What about you, Scott? Favourite scene?
It's either that one that Emma just described, because that one, I will say, is like the high payoff of the whole film. Or that the one where, I think it was when it was at the jukebox, when they're all just crowded around the jukebox that bit, because I think that was so good in how they used the music in that scene. This music was so good in that it was basically implying what was going to happen, and for the reason why he's got them there, and which I thought was so beautifully done. Because like, they just think in that moment, oh, it's just music, but if you actually listen to the lyrics, I'm pretty sure it's about holding on to something which isn't yours.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's so hauntingly beautiful. And I love that.
Yep. I would agree with that.
I think my favourite scene would have been the ending had they ended it properly and cut to black when they should have.
Yeah.
But other than that, it would have been the scene where Michelle tries to escape. So when she hits Howard over the head and then she runs up the stairs and gets out to the little
Oh yeah.
passageway between the two
Yeah.
doors, and then there's that woman that's like banging her head off the damn door trying to get in, and that's like, I think that's when the film sort of turns a wee corner and starts to be more of a horror for a second, which is really good. It gets really dark. I'm not a big horror fan, like I said, I'm a massive one, but I really liked it in that scene. It was good. You're also thinking like, oh, Howard, like, my God, like, maybe he's telling the truth now. Like, you do start to leave him because this woman's desperately trying to get in. That she's banging her head off the window of the door, and then also she's saying like, "Oh, it barely touched me," and you're like, "What barely touched you? What barely touched you? Like, let us know." So I really loved that scene. I thought it was really good. It was really dark. Both John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead were really good in that scene. So yeah, I really did like that.
I was going to say it kind of gives you that choice as well. That's when the choice appears, where it's like, oh, do I let her in after she's clearly been infected with something or some kind of radiation, or do I let this poor woman die? Like, I don't know. So that was a bit where I was like, oh, that's quite nice. That was a nice touch. Sorry, Michelle, but it was. Sorry to put you through that.
Okay, so pros and cons next. Emma, do you want to start first?
I thought the acting was very good overall. It was a good setup for the tension and just for the stress of the film. There was plenty seeds of doubt planted, so it kept you second guessing all the way through. It never really went away, like, for sure, especially in the first viewing. And yeah, just the tone was set right from the start, and it was just steady throughout. They maintained that tone of you don't know if he's telling the truth, you don't know if he's lying, and it's also like quite a creepy vibe. So that was very good.
Any cons from you?
I would just the ending, like that. I said the escape scene was my favorite part until she got to the truck, and then she stands up on it and she sees what's happened, and you're like, right, finally we know the truth, like, you know what's happened. And then it kind of went too over the top, like far too over the top, with just this giant slug chasing her. I'm like, could have done without that, to be honest. I feel like it's two different films mashed together. And I was like, it doesn't really fit the tone of the whole
I get that.
hour and 20 minutes we watched the movie. And I was like, that was a weird choice. I felt like it was a bit too long as well, adding that part in. Because it got to that part and I was like, oh, we're not finished yet. It's like, I thought that would have been the ending of her just seeing that it's true and it's happened, and then they added it in. But that's just me, though. That's just my preference.
So, like I already said, only cons would be the beginning bit. I didn't really quite like that. The acting just wasn't quite there for me. I just felt a bit, I don't know, I want to say cheesy, but I don't think that's the right word, but like, I don't know. And the ending should have stopped when she saw that spaceship. But that's only cons. But the thing is, like, the ending of a film is everything. And that's what annoys me about this film, because it was so good, but that end leaves such a sour taste in my mouth. Because like all the way through, I was like, "Oh, this is really good. This is really good. This is really good." And then I was just like, "What the hell were you thinking? Like, don't ruin a film like that." So like you said, Emma, I feel like it is they just tried to merge two different films together, and it's just absolute nonsense. Like, I think that really ruined the film for me.
Yeah.
But the rest of the film was brilliant. It's just like the very very beginning and the very end.
Yeah.
Scott, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of get that with the ending as well. I never really got that. Oh, it didn't mesh well.
Yeah.
It was like Emma said before. It was like two separate films.
Yeah.
It's like they were trying to blend two separate films together, and it just didn't work. It's like I'd be happy if it just had that nice ending at the end of her standing on the car, seeing that ship, and it went screen to black.
Yeah.
I would be more than happy with that. Because then if they wanted to take it further later on and be like, okay, we're going to make a sequel to this,
Pick up.
that'd be a perfect place to not even pick up, but you could be like, she got in the car and she got away. Or she done this, this, and this after this.
Yeah, I get you.
But like, so this isn't normally like a film I would go for, but I really enjoyed it because it kept me on the edge of my seat, and I don't normally like those films.
It was thrilling.
See, I like a thriller. Like, this is a good level of like, I don't know, like, it's a good mix. Like, it's not too scary, but it's thrilling. You're on the edge of your seat the whole way through. I don't like horror. I don't like blood and gore. Like I think that's very lowbrow. And like people that are obsessed with horror films are wow. Actually, I won't go slate a bunch of people, but
Yes, please do not. Please do.
but you know what I mean. Like I feel like this was the right mix between like thriller and horror. Like it was a good mix, and it was right on the cusp for me. It was like I wouldn't really like anything much scarier than this. So like I really enjoyed the film. Like I thought it was the right mix of it. Kept you on the edge of your seat, kept you guessing. So yeah, I really liked that about it.
I think if I was to watch it again, I would just turn it off when she stands up on the car and be like, "Oh yeah, great ending," and then that'll be it.
I've actually like recommended this film to people and told them to do just that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just like switch the film off like 10 minutes before it ends. And people are like, no, I'm not switching the film off before it ends. I'm like, trust me, turn it off. Like I told them the exact time to turn it off. And none of them listened to me, but they all came back and were like, oh, I get what you mean. Yeah, we should have turned it off.
I really liked the music in it, but you know that I love music that much. I just like the lyrics, because the lyrics of the songs that they chose kind of hinted to the fact of they were trapped or they were alone, or because wasn't one of the songs I think We're Alone Now?
Yeah, it was.
And I thought that was quite poignant because it was like they are alone in their own little world together, which I thought was quite good, and I like that.
Good.
On the topic of music, know that scene where Howard starts dancing
to
the jukebox? Like I loved that scene. I thought it was like funny but also very like scary, not scary, but like you were on edge in your seat because you were just like, what is going on here? Like you weren't quite sure how to take it because you're like, it's funny to watch him do this at the same time, but at the same time you're like, this guy's a bloody psychopath. Like these guys need to get away from him. Like he's just so hot and cold.
Yeah.
But when he's dancing, I think that's hilarious.
Yes.
Really good. I really enjoyed that scene.
Cool.
All that's left now is our score for 10 Cloverfield Lane. So just to remind you that we rate our films based on performances, script, direction, cinematography and visual effects, and score and sound effects. So I gave this film a 3 out of all, Emma gave it a 3 overall, and Scott gave it a 2.6, which gives it a 2.8 on average. And I think we'd all agree that had they not tanked the ending, then we would have rated it a lot higher, probably in the 4.5 region. Next up, we've got A Quiet Place, directed by John Krasinski, written by Brian Woods and Scott Beck, with John Krasinski also on the writing credits. So what were your first thoughts?
I loved this film more than I thought I would. A lot more than I thought I would. Because I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, oh, nope, not for me. Creepy aliens that like eat or kill people, nope, not for me. But I really enjoyed it. Acting was incredible, storyline was incredible, and like the tension it built with just silence, no music, nothing needed. It was just pure silence.
Yeah.
And I thought that was incredibly. Oh, how would you describe that? Incredibly beautifully designed, because it kind of also gives you an insight into the world of someone who would be deaf, like one of the main characters is.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very smartly used. But no, I loved this whole film, and I can't wait to see the next one, the second one.
Me too. I was the same as like 10 Cloverfield Lane. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, nope. After being traumatized by The Village when I was 12, I was like, nope, that's not the film for me. But no, it was really good. I would sit down and watch that again, like right now. I'm like, let's go again. I really enjoyed it, a lot more than I thought I would. I think it was still spooky. It was definitely still spooky, but it was done very well.
Yeah, totally.
All the little details they added in as well for the deaf daughter were very good.
Yeah.
Like, obviously she wouldn't be able to tell what made the most noise or what creaked or anything, so they had little patches on the floor. I don't know what it was. I think it was like paint or something. They had little patches.
I think it was, yeah.
For where to step. I was like, that's a nice touch.
It was just the little things, yeah.
Yep. Good tension, and those little details making it very accessible were very good. And I would definitely watch it again.
But it also made it like really like personal as well, because it was like a family, and like everybody can relate in some respects.
Yeah.
Whether you have a family or you like your friends or whatever else, because in some way it was like you all kind of look out for each other. You all kind of have to look out for each other. You are like your own little community, It's kind of
Yes.
smart how they all had their own roles to play and their own jobs to do within
Yeah.
the family
Yeah.
to keep alive, basically, to keep themselves alive.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so smartly done.
Uh-huh.
But it also still had that same family kind of like tension, like that teenage daughter not listening to their dad,
Yeah,
or
I was
like
going to say
the
that, yeah.
brother falling out with the sister, and it still had that same family dynamic, which I really liked.
Yeah. Overall, very good film, and I would definitely watch it again.
Oh yeah, definitely. Same here. I'd even recommend it to people, and I don't often recommend films to people. Not often, because I don't trust my judgment on them. I'm just like, oh, what I like isn't what they like. But this is definitely one that is up there to keep people. I definitely say it keeps a lot of people interested. Keep me interested for sure.
Yep, so my first impressions of the film were I really, really did enjoy it. As already mentioned several times in this episode, I am a massive wimp, so it did take me 3 times to watch this film. And I think I got 5 minutes in the first time, so it was when like the creature came running towards the little boy, I turned it off, and I was like, nope. And then I got to the scene where they're playing Monopoly. I think that was about 15 minutes in, and then the badger. There's a badger or something. I didn't realize the badger looks. I turned it off before I realised that. So it did take me a while. Ended up having to get my mum to watch it with me as a 20-year-old adult. Well, 20-odd-year-old, but I'll not mention that. But yeah, really loved the film. I really wanted you guys to see it because it is one of these films that I will keep recommending to people now after watching it because it's just a brilliant film. I think, considering it's John Krasinski's first film that he's ever directed, I can't believe that because the film is just so well directed.
Yeah.
Obviously, the writing's very strong as well, but it's just a brilliant film. All the performances are amazing from the adults and the kids. And I don't know, it's a really, really good film. I don't know what else to say about it other than, the cinematography is brilliant, script's brilliant, acting's brilliant, direction's brilliant.
Oh yeah,
the
that was really
decision
strong.
to record on film just makes the lighting so beautiful at night as well. Everything about this film is just stunning, absolutely stunning. And the sound is amazing. I like the fact that they cut to complete silence for like Reagan's point of view.
Yeah.
And you just hear nothing at all. Obviously the film's really quiet, but hearing nothing at all, there's a big difference between that and like hearing these subtle little background noises. And I can imagine how amazing that would have been in the cinema.
Yeah.
For it to be complete silence. Like, I can't imagine how good that would have been. This is one of a few films that I really regret going to see at the cinema because I think it'd just be so much better, like, in a theatre full of people, like, we're trying to be as quiet as possible because it's like, when you're watching a film and the film goes quiet and then you feel awkward if you're, like, munching on your nachos or popcorn or you're rustling stuff.
Yep.
So imagine that for, like, a whole film.
Yeah,
my God, that would be intense.
Yeah.
Like, it would make the tension even worse. So I really wish I had seen it at the cinema. I can't wait to go see the second one at the cinema. So I think that would be much better. But
yeah, that'd be good.
The film blew me away. I wasn't expecting... Like, I wanted to watch it because when I did see the trailers, I was like, this looks good. But I'm never going to be able to watch that. It's, like, I don't like scary stuff. And then, because I kept hearing so many people being like, oh, it's amazing, you see it, I was like, I need to bite the bullet and do this. And it took me 3 tries, but once I did watch it all the way through, it was worth it. I couldn't believe it. And it's one of the films that I do recommend to pretty much everyone now. Although, I know not everyone likes it. I remember they watched it at my work during lockdown, and they all hated it. They said it was really boring. And they were laughing through it or whatever, and I was like, what? I was like, it's this really beautiful, emotional film about family, and you were laughing. I was like, you've just revealed yourself to have absolutely no taste in films.
Yeah,
but that's okay. But I was like, how can you not? I don't understand how you not like the film. Like, I know there's no like spoken dialogue, but there's dialogue with sign language, and I imagine if you are hard of hearing, like being able to see someone in a film, who is like you, especially for young people, like it's not represented well. And if there ever is a film about like with a character that can't hear, usually it's played as a very like, oh, poor them, blah blah blah. Whereas I think this is very empowering for Reagan, the character.
Totally.
Because let's face it, without her, like they wouldn't have been able to kill the creatures. Like they wouldn't have worked that out. So I think it's an amazing thing for people who are deaf or to some extent or whatever. Like it would be really good to see.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah,
to see on screen, especially in such a mainstream film. So I really like that. I really like the way the sound cut out when you were like seen from Reagan's perspective. So like it's suddenly go because obviously
Uh-huh.
it's a quiet like no one's talking. It is quiet, but sometimes they whisper as their sign language is like very quietly, or you can just hear like the wind blowing or whatever. And then when it cuts to Reagan, it's just absolute silence.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, like I was blown away from the film the first time that I saw it. I thought it was really really amazing. Do you want to move on to favourite scene? Scott, do you want to start?
Let me think. Oh, I've got a few favourite scenes.
Yeah, it's hard to choose one.
I know it's hard to just pinpoint one.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of good ones.
The one where she's giving birth in the bathtub.
Yeah,
That's
intense.
It's
When you're waiting for those
was
fireworks to go off
Yeah.
and then you can scream. My God, that's a good scene.
Oh, that one was a really good scene. Another one would be where the creature comes downstairs into the basement
Yeah.
when she's got the kids there and everything, and you're like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yep.
You're just like,
Don't like that.
oh my God,
Yep.
anything could happen at this moment. And I thought that was,
Yeah.
it's like the tension, the build up, which is so beautiful. I'd say
Mhm.
those two are at least up there with my favourite. I'm sure
Mhm.
there's another one, but I can't remember at the moment.
Yeah.
If I do remember it after you two, I'll say.
Okay.
Emma, what about you?
Mine was when they discovered that the interference from the hearing aid works against the monster, because then you're like, oh, they finally have a way to fight back, and it was Reagan that discovered it.
Yeah.
That was really good. There was 2 or 3. I think there was 3 times where they had the interference that sort of scared the monster off. But obviously, her being deaf, she wouldn't have noticed it.
But it was when she realised, yeah.
And then when they realised it at the end, and she just blasts it with a shotgun, I was like, that's amazing.
Absolutely. I'd say my favourite scene, just because like it makes me ugly cry, would have to be when Lee, the dad, that final moment.
Yeah.
When he said, especially because the son's already said to him, like when they were away fishing, like do you love her? And he's like, of course I love her. And he's like, you should tell her that.
Yeah.
So when he tells her that, it's a really touching scene. It's really great. And then obviously he screams to sacrifice. Like it's a beautiful scene, and it just shows like under the heart. Like yeah, it's a thriller and it's supposed to be a scary like scare film, but at the heart of it, it's just a story about a family trying to get over this devastating thing that's happened to them, losing this young child and being in this situation. And I just think that's a beautiful moment. And then carrying on from that, I couldn't pick one of the two, but like just after that, when they go back to the house, obviously to meet their mum, when they go down to the basement and she realizes, because obviously she wasn't allowed down in that basement, Reagan. So when she goes down to this basement where the dad's pretty much been spending all his time trying to figure out how to defeat these creatures and how to, keep them safe as possible. When she realizes that he's been sitting, she sees all the hearing aids on his desk, and she realizes that he's been spending all his time just trying to give her hearing back. Like that's a very touching scene as well. So I really like this family dynamic. I love the message. What would you do to save your family? And I think John Krasinski does it so well. That'd probably be my best. Like I like the underlying, like it's a scary film, but the actual underlying message is just beautiful. So those scenes, I mean, they're the epitome of that. So they would probably be my favourites. Move on to pros and cons. For the start, Emma.
Yep, all the little details, like I said before, there's excellent attention to detail for sound and movement throughout the place. Like the sand was the path they had to walk on to muffle their movements.
Yeah.
And like the paint, I already said on the wood for where to stand, where it didn't creak.
Yeah, I really loved that.
Yeah, that was good. It was very accessible for like the deaf daughter, as well as everyone else, so they knew where to go.
Yeah, exactly.
The sound design was really good, in that it was just the silence, so it kind of put us in like Reagan's shoes, and as well as what it would be like if we were actually there. There was no over the top music or anything for like top action scenes. It was just the sound effects and what they were actually doing. So I like that sound played a big part in it, and the methods of communication they had for no sound, like the red lights to signal that something was wrong in the house. That was cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was really good. Yeah. Very, very well thought out. I really like that.
Yeah.
Not only is it a very smart idea, and it's just nice to see. Like it's on screen, it's very cool when you see it.
Yes.
But cinematography wise, great shot.
Yeah.
For when those lights all turn red. So yeah, that's really good as well. Anything else?
A beautifully shot film.
Yeah,
it's really
good. Cinematography is amazing on
it. But no, that was it for me.
That was it for you. Let me just check my notes because I had quite a few things.
There's a lot. There's a lot for this film.
Yeah. So obviously performances. I mean,
You're very
the
good.
kids in this film, because usually kids, it's hard to get kids to act really well. But I think all the children in this film are amazing. Obviously, the smallest kid's not in it very long, but the performances, especially the girl that plays Reagan, who I'm not quite sure how to say it. Millicent Simmons, but I don't know if that's how you say it. It almost looks like Maleficent to me, so that's why I'm getting confused with it. But
she goes by Millie.
Yeah, Millie. Yeah, I thought I'd heard him saying it, and everybody's just calling her Millie. But she's amazing, like really, really well. Like because she's got quite a big part in the film. She's got quite heavy moments, especially that scene where she's trying out the new hearing aid and she's clicking and can't hear it.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. I think she's really good for her age. Like she carries certain scenes in these films, and she does it so well.
Yep.
The other son as well, Noah Jupe. He's amazing. I think he looks very scared at times. Like you feel like this boy's literally really living this scenario right now. Especially when he's like fishing with his dad, and like his dad starts shouting under the waterfall, and you can see like I'm proper terrified.
Yes, yeah.
I also like the interactions like with the family, because they feel like I know Emily Blunt and John Krasinski really are husband and wife, but even the kids act like they really are their parents. Like that moment when I'm sure it's when he's under the waterfall and he does shout, and the little boy like grabs onto John Krasinski's jumper.
Yeah.
And it's just like such a natural thing like I would do to like my dad when I was little.
Yep.
When you're scared, and it just feels so natural. The moment when there's that little funny moment when Emily Blunt's teaching Noah some math or something, I think it is, and then he has to go fishing, he doesn't want to go, and she's saying how he needs to look after her when she's old, and she does like all these funny faces, and it's a nice little light moment, but they feel like a family.
Yeah, it's natural.
And I like how much they've built that up, and they've put a lot of details into it. I love that. Like you said, all the different little details of how they've adapted their life. So obviously you see them pasting the paper onto the walls to make it as soundproof as possible when they're building that little basement area for when the baby comes. What else have they got? That was really good. Just trying to think. Oh, like the replacing the Monopoly pieces for like felt and stuff, so it's quiet.
Oh yeah.
Using looks like lettuce leaves or something for plates rather than having actual plates, because obviously plates would be very noisy. When John's washing his face, he's washing his face over like a towel, so it's dripping onto that, so that's not even making any noise. Like there's so many little things that they've put a lot of thought into this. Also, probably need to note the sound effects. So yeah, there's not a lot of sound in it, but what sound in it there is in it is done very, very well. And just the no sound at all is an effect in itself, really. But I really love the moment where like she's listening to the baby's heartbeat, and then it sort of turns into the thrilling music, like of something's going to happen.
Yes,
that was really cool, and also it kind of shows like what danger they're in. Just the fact that she's pregnant, like this is posing a huge risk to the family. So I really like that. I like how the dad kind of had this role of he was dedicating his whole life into trying to figure out how to save his family, how to defeat these creatures. You see his his whiteboard that he's got full of all his little notes, and he's got all the newspaper clippings. He's using a little radio. I was wondering, what did Lee do before this that he knows how to do all these radio messages and everything like that, and trying to fix the hearing aid. I mean, he's not successful with hearing aids, but you know what I mean? Like,
certainly tries.
I wonder, what did this guy do that he's doing this? And then Evelyn's quite clearly just dedicated her life to trying to make the kids' lives as normal as possible. Like she still tries to let them have fun, and like you can see that it was probably her that made these little felt and little, I can't remember what they're called, but you know, like little cotton ball things for the Monopoly and everything, so that they can still play games.
Yeah,
she sits and makes mobile for the crib for the baby that's coming. Like she's sitting stitching that, sitting still teaching them like their schoolwork. You know, like life might go on after this. Like things might go back to normal, so let's prepare these kids for their future and not just like stop everything. So the fact that she's still trying to place a home, she's still telling them to wash up before dinner and everything. It's just, I love it. I love the family aspect of this film. I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
I would like to throw a con in, but I honestly couldn't think of one con. I think the sound effects is really good, the cinematography is brilliant, the performance is brilliant, the script is so well written. I like the fact that there's only one song played in this film, and it's Neil Young's Harvest Moon. I love that song. It's a beautiful song. And that moment when they're dancing as well, you can like really picture that they probably were like this great couple before this happened. Not saying they're not a great couple now, but obviously they've went through this loss of a child, which is hard to deal with in the best of times. But in a time like this, when you can't even properly speak to each other or anything, you know, you can't use your words, you can't really cry because it'll make it. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And I like when they're first able to talk, when they realise that their basement like is soundproof and they can't hear them. I like the first thing that Emily Blunt really
mentions is the fact that he was so heavy. She should have carried she didn't have anything in her hands, and at first you think she's talking about the newborn baby, and then you realize she's talking about Bo, and it's just it's so nice. Like you can just see like
they can finally
had a chance to talk out loud about it, and I just really like that little family aspect, and the fact that they are able to get emotional in this scene. But it just, I think. It's just like the epitome, like that scene's the epitome of the family vibe of this.
Can I just quickly just say back to what you were saying about the wee boy? I think his performance was so beautiful, and that the way that he looked so scared of his own shadow throughout most of the film, like scared to even do some things. He was constantly like holding on to his like dad's coat's tail. Like if he wasn't following his dad, he'd be following his mum. I liked how at the end of the film he kind of became his own person, if you know what I mean. He kind of evolved past being scared of his own shadow constantly.
Yeah.
Which I think it was like a beautiful arc for the son to kind of like have that realization of having to grow up.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to lasting thoughts.
I would definitely watch it again. Even I think I said that after it finished, I was like, yeah, I could watch that again right now. I thought it was really good. It was very enjoyable, and after, like you said, after seeing the things that were chasing them, I think the trailer did a very good job of setting the tone and being like, yeah, this is quite a spooky film, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But then that just adds to the thrilling aspect of it. I don't know if it's classed as a horror, but it would add to the horror of it as well. Just being like, there's this thing that, you know, you can't talk. And you're just like, how would you get by if you can't talk? So, yeah, but I would definitely watch that again. I would happily watch it.
I like the fact that the daughter being deaf would usually be an obstacle in most films, but this family have actually adapted really well to like the situation that they're in because their daughter's deaf and because they all know how to sign because of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a negative that one time when like the little boys at the start of the film, when the little boys got the rocket and she can't hear it going off, and she's the closest to him, so she's the only one that could have really have maybe grabbed it off him and thrown it away. But apart from that, like her being deaf is a positive for this family. Lasting thoughts for you, Scott?
I would definitely watch the film again for sure. And I would definitely recommend it as well. But like you said, I think the trailer definitely gave away enough in which enticed you in, but not too much in which it revealed the whole plot, in which you're like, oh, that's what's going to happen. There's no point in me watching it. Where with this one, it's kind of like, ooh, kind of kept you on your toes a wee bit in some places, which I quite enjoyed. And I'd definitely be up for watching the second one as well.
We'll definitely need to all go see it together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Really, really good film. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
My lasting thoughts are pretty much the same. I really loved it from all aspects. I mean, I recommended it for us to watch for this episode because I wanted you guys to see it. I can understand why some people don't like it because I guess if you're not totally like if you're not into film subtitles, then you're not going to want to sit and read subtitles for when they're signing. So I can understand that. But personally, I loved it. The ending of the film, which we've not really spoke about, but I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you end a film, Dan Trachtenberg.
Yeah.
That is a good ending. Not only with them killing the creature, but then when they're looking at the CCTV and like they see the other creatures running towards the house, like that's a brilliant moment. It's just amazing. And I love that it's not until the last sort of scene where you get like a score playing in the background. Like that final bit when they're like killing the creature, that's when a score actually kicks in. And it's a really cool score. It adds to like the tension.
Yeah.
So I really like that as well.
Yeah.
And then to finish, I love how we have like Evelyn and Reagan giving each other this badass look.
Yes.
Like as if to say, let's go bitches. I mean, how often do women get that moment in films, especially films like this? So I think it's great that it ends with like Evelyn and Reagan like being the strong ones, which is brilliant. No misogyny there from John Krasinski, so that's always good.
Yeah.
And yeah, just for his first film, like I think it's an amazing script for him to choose to do. I like the ways that he adapted it. I like the vibe that he gave it and how he really focused on the family element. And I'm just really excited to see more films from him as a director. Like I think he's amazing, and not just the rest of these films. If they'll make one sequel or two, I don't know what they're going to do. But just films in the future, I hope he really does get more opportunities to step behind the camera because I think he's really brilliant.
Yeah, obviously knows what he's doing, eh?
Okay, so we're just going to move on to scores. Just to remind you once again, we rate our films based on performances, script, direction, cinematography, visual effects, score, sound effects. So Overall, I gave this film a 5, Emma gave it a 5, and Scott gave it a 4.9, which gives it a 4.9 overall. So Scott was the only one that had the audacity to take any points off this. No thanks, Scott. So any other lasting thoughts, Dad?
Nothing I can think of. Nope. Really good films, but yeah.
Nope. All good.
Okay, so in our next episode, we've got Arrival and Interstellar. So get ready for me to be really pretentious about Christopher Nolan. And then lastly, I'd just like to give credit to Kevin MacLeod for our theme music, which is The Descent, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.